أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغاه وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. It is the day of Wafat and demise of al-Mu'mineen Hazrat Khatija Salamullahi alayha. And on behalf of all of you and everyone present in this majlis, and on behalf of all of the marhumeen in particular, there's a short ziyarat I'll recite. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayki ya al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayki ya zawjata Sayyid al-Mursaleen. Assalamu alayki ya Fatimata al-Zahra Sayyidati Nisa al-Alameen. Assalamu alayki ya awwal al-Mu'minat. Assalamu alayki ya من أنفقت مالها في نصرة سيد الأنبياء ونصرته ما استطاعت ودافعت عنه الأعداء. السلام عليك يا من سلم عليها جبرائيل وبلغها سلام من الله الجليل فهنيئا لك بما أولاك الله من فضل والسلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته. With reference to Hazrat Khadija Salamullahi alayha, studying the history of religions, we see the names of a few women who have reached takamul, who have reached perfection. One is Asiya, the daughter of Muzahim, Maryam, the daughter of Imran, Khadija, the daughter of Khuwaylid, and Hazrat Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Now we have heard very little about their role, the effects they had in history and in their societies. For example, Hazrat Khadija, Salamullahi alayha. Her title, it is Malikatul Arab. Her beauty, her wealth, her title, like Sayyidatul Batha is another title that she has. But that what was famous was Malikatul Arab, meaning the queen of the Arabs, the queen of Quraysh, were the titles given to her. Now all Shias and the Sunni historians, they have reported, and there was no dignitary of Quraysh who did not seek Khadija's hand to get married to her. Among them is Utbah, Shayba, and Abu Jahl as well. They went to seek her hand to marry her, and she rejected all of them. Now, when she got married to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the women of Quraysh, they boycotted her. So she was isolated and all alone, being the queen of the Arabs, the richest woman there in Arabia. And there, historians, they also mentioned this, that there wasn't any person who had not borrowed anything from Hazrat Khadija. She had helped everyone out, she had bailed so many out, and she had given loans and qarz to so many numerous people across the Arabia. Now the name of Hazrat Khadija has been mentioned as the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the mother. Now this is from the Johanna's Bible, among the disciples of Prophet Isa alayhi salam. he says that her name has been mentioned as the wife of the Prophet and the mother of the lady who will carry the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head is a crown jeweled with 12 stars. Now, this is something which he has reported in that Bible way before the birth of Rasulullah and Hazrat Zahra Salamullahi alayha. Now, regarding Hazrat Khadija, this is the statement. Now, the false and the historical fabrication of the age of Hazrat Khadija at the time of her marriage is the work of Bani Umayyah, because they did not want the qualities, the beauty of the Ahlul Bayt and Hazrat Khadija to be made public. Now, these reports, they were fabricated by Bani Umayyah to reduce the importance and the honor of Lady Khadija, Salamullahi alayha. Ibn Asakir, in his book Tarikh Damashqi, and Zahabi, in his book Siyar A'lam Nubala, and then Hakim Neshaburi in his book Mustadrak ala Sahihain, all of them, they are the Sunni writers, Sunni sources, and all of them have stated that she was 28 years old at the time of her marriage to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Bayhaqi, another Sunni alim, in his book Dala'il al-Nubuwwah, he marks her age as 25 at the age of her marriage. And among the Shia ulama as well, Ja'far Murtaza Amili, among the assets of the Shia world, in his book As-Sahih min Siratul Nabi al-A'zam, he writes that in detail that her age was 25 at the time of her marriage. Now, her lofty status, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he reports that on the night of Mi'raj, the Jibreel alayhi salam had just one message for the earth, and that was the salam of Allah and salam to Khadijatul Kubra salamullahi alayha. So in every phase of her life, the apostle, he lauds, he praises the greatness and the honor of Hazrat Khadija alayha salam, and he sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam says that Islam, it got established and was formed by the hard work and the sword of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam and the wealth of Khadija salamullahi alayha. Now, the greatness of this great lady can be seen in the Ziyarat Waris that we recite. Ziyarat Waris, it's one of those authentic ziyarat reported by the Ma'asumeen. There we say that Assalamu alayk Assalamu alayka yabna Khadijat al-Kubra. And then when we come and talk about the next statement, we say Ashhadu annaka qad kunta fil aslab al-shamikha wal-arham al-mutahhara. That is, we testify and give this witness that you have been among those who was pure, a nur in your fathers all the way until Prophet Adam, and a nur in the wombs of your mothers all the way until Hazrat Hawa. So Imam Hussein from Hazrat Fatima from Hazrat Khadija, Khadija from her mother all the way to Hawa salamullahi alayha, says you are all nur. No pollution, no contamination whatsoever from the era of ignorance polluted you, contaminated you. This is what we witness. Now, such a high status she has that the Prophet ﷺ has said that she is one of the four ladies of the heaven. Now, the fabricators of history, they have tried a lot to remove her name from history. The more we study history, it opens up further windows to her greatness and sanctity. Now, this is first of all from the Bani Umayyah clan, and also from the wives of the Prophet as well. There was a lot of jealousy towards Hazrat Khadija salamullahi alayha. That many a times, inshallah, we'll talk on that as well with some of the quotes. When Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, 40 years after Rasulullah, when he's traveling to Karbala, he comes to the grave of Hazrat Khadija, and there he offered a 2 rakat prayer. And he gives the 2 rakat hadiyah to Hazrat Khadija. There he cries a lot. There he addresses saying, Ya Ummah, cries a lot. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as well, 10 years, 13 years. That is, he lived for about 13 years after Hazrat Khadija. He lived, so he also used to come to the grave of Hazrat Khadija. There he used to cry as well. So Ahlul Bayt, they exalted her a lot. Rasulullah exalted her, honored her, her grave. Likewise, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein also honors her grave, just like the Prophet. And she was a partner in every aspect with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. That the Prophet says that no Prophet was hurt as I was. And in this, Hazrat Khadija also is a shareholder, is a partner with Rasulullah in all the pain and the torture and the harm that was given to Rasulullah. To her also it was the same. Although she was such a mighty lady with all that greatness and the wealth that she has, despite that, the people of that time, they hurt the Prophet, they abandoned her, and they also hurt her as well. Now, the statements that we have from Rasulullah regarding Hazrat Khadija, salamullahi alayha, it says the Almighty many a times, by the presence of Hazrat Khadija, He extends His pride to the angels, that this is my servant, this is the lady who I am proud of. That is how Allah, He boasts before the angels. Now, the Prophet, he says that she had faith in me once everyone else denied me. She certified me once everyone else rejected me. She gave me her wealth when everyone else abstained me. And then through her, the Almighty Allah gave me a child, and that is Hazrat Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Now, the best woman of the women of the paradise I just mentioned, one is Hazrat Khadija, the other is Fatima, the other is Maryam and Asiya bint Muzahim. These are the great ladies of the heaven. And among the women of the world, only 4 of them, they reach this high rank of takamul, and it is them. Hazrat Khadija was the first woman to have faith in God and His apostle. Salamullahi alayha is one of the 4 great ladies that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He mentions, and also Rasulullah in numerous statements He has said, and those 4 ladies who have reached that takamul and that perfection. Now, Hazrat Khadija is the best and the most superior among the Ummahatul Mu'mineen. Ummahatul Mu'mineen, the mother of Mu'mineen, is the title given to the wives of the Prophet. Now, the Prophet, he never married anyone as long as Hazrat Khadija, salamullahi alayha, was alive. And Allah bestowed, the Prophet, he says that Allah bestowed in me the love of Khadija, and I too loved her from the core of my heart, and those who love Khadija also, I too love them indeed. The Almighty God, He never gave me a wife better than Khadija. The Almighty God has not replaced her rank with anyone. Now, all these are the statements that we have from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to regarding Hazrat Khadija. Now, one of the other statements that we have from the Prophet addressing to Aisha, he says that don't talk like that about Khadija, when she used to mock and say that she was an old lady, etc. Rasulullah, he used to tell him, don't talk like that regarding Khadija. She is the first one to submit to me, and she blessed me with a child, and you all were deprived of that blessing. Now, regarding Hazrat Khadija, salamullahi alayha, whatever she had, she gave away that in the way of Islam and for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Zubair bin Bakr, he says that even in the era of Jahiliyyah, Khadija, she was chaste, she was trustworthy, she was wise, she had a vision, she had an insight. And Hisham bin Muhammad, he says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he loved her, consulted her. The first to have faith in the Prophet is Hazrat Khadija, and he never took another wife as long as she was alive, and no child did he have but through her. Now, this again that you hear that she was married and she had children from before, all that is fabrication. She was a virgin, she didn't marry anyone, she didn't have any children. Her only marriage was with Rasulullah, and also the only child that she had is Hazrat Fatima, Salamullahi alayha. Now, the rank of Hazrat Khadija in the A'raf also. Now, in Surah Al-A'raf, there is an ayah there the Almighty says that وَعَلَى الْأَعْرَافِ رِجَالٌ يَعْرِفُونَ كُلًّا بِسِيمَاهُمْ. That is, on the A'raf, there are men that who recognize everyone. So when Mu'mineen will be on the day of judgment in the Qiyamah, so those to whom the heaven is assigned, they know their way, they will be there. There will be some to whom the hell will be assigned, they also know their way. There will be a group who don't know that where they belong. Neither do their actions are such that they deserve the heaven with all the blessings in it, nor are they, nor are they, the wrong they have done is such that they deserve the hell. So for them, what happens is that Allah, He places them in the A'raf. A'raf, it's a holding area between the hell and the heaven on the day of judgment. On that holding area, there are heights, A'raf. And on the heights, there are men who will look at this crowd down below. Now, this A'raf, it's between the hell and the heaven. So this group will be placed here, and they are hoping to get into the heaven. Hoping to get into the heaven also, there needs a recognition that those on the heights on the A'raf, they are the Ahlul Bayt and the Imams alayhimus salam. Now this is very briefly I'm mentioning over here, and among them, the A'raf, Hazrat Khadija Salamullahi alayha is also there. So they have to have a recognition for that group who is in the A'raf. So if they know and recognize them, they will enter. And if they don't, if either of them doesn't recognize either of them, they cannot enter. So recognition to enter into the heaven is required from both sides. So that wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen, if it's there in them, then Amirul Mu'mineen can also recognize them. They have the wilayah, they can enter. If that wilayat is lacking, they don't enter. So if the actions are such that neither the heaven can be given to them nor the hell can be given to them, they are placed in that holding area. So among those A'raf who have got the capacity and the ability to bail people out from that holding area, it's Hazrat Khadija Salamullahi alayha. Now the first among the ladies who entered Islam and was faithful to Rasulullah is Hazrat Khadija. Is يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. The first one there, it was Hazrat Khadija from among the women. Now, a very honorable lady and from a very honorable tribe, a very wealthy businessman she was, and then businesswoman she was, and the richest tycoon of her time. And historians, they say, they have described her wealth to be as many as 80,000 camels she owned. She took people in partnership and in trade and was on international levels, import, export of good, and she was a very successful businesswoman. She was the mother of the orphans. That was another title that was given to her, that she looked after the destitute and the needy. She had the desire to marry Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Abu Talib alayhi salam was a poor man, but great and very highly respected among the tribes. He saw that his nephew, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, has reached the age of getting married, and then he cannot marry him to anyone. But little he could do. There, Hazrat Abu Talib says that if there is anyone you know you want, let me know. He says, but I haven't got anything to give to that spouse. He proposed like every other person who worked for Khadija, you also serve her in her business. He offered him, Rasulullah, a job with Hazrat Khadija. And with the profit that you will get, we can make some arrangements for you to get married. The Prophet accepted the offer of working for Hazrat Khadija, salamullahi alayha, and Hazrat Khadija, who knew the Prophet, his trustworthiness, his character, his abilities, uh, and she somehow long wanted the Prophet to join her trade. She accepted, and the wage that was accepted to pay the Prophet for his work was 2 or 4 camels. The Prophet, along with the other caravans, was sent to Sham, Syria. Now, the reporter here, Hazrat Khadija, she sends one of his slaves with the Prophet to be in a company with him, and then says unconditionally, you have to obey him, respect him, whatever he says, wherever whatever he wants to do, you will have to obey the Prophet unconditionally. So the name of that the slave that she sends is Maysara. So Khadija, she sent her personal slave Maysara with the Prophet with all those special orders. Wherever he stopped, it was all barakah, it was all blessings that they got in abundance, and the caravan returned with a big, hefty profit uh, compared to the previous years. And the historians, they report that when this caravan reached Sham or Basra, one of the monks there, his name is Nastura, he sees a cloud sheltering upon the caravan and upon the Prophet. He calls Maysara and says, who is there in that group, in that caravan of yours? Who wasn't there with you in the previous trips? And the monk, he knew, and that's why he inquired. The signs that he saw, the cloud sheltering the caravan, and also then he sees that the Prophet, he goes and rests down under a tree. And there, when he inquires and he says that definitely he is a Prophet, because no person sat under that tree but a Prophet, and he is a Prophet. He is a Prophet. So he was the first person to say that, and Maysara wanted somehow to get to his destination, to Mecca, and give this message to Hazrat Khadija. And on his way back, he counts and sees that the Prophet, they have gained this in this trip. It's huge. And again, in addition to that, Nastura, the monk, the good news that he had given, Maysara, he reaches the destination, and Hazrat Khadija also sees that there's a cloud sheltering and shadowing over this caravan. When Maysara comes and gives the news about the monk and the Prophet they had gained in this business, in this trade, she says that I want you to take him to different parts of Mecca. Just want to see if the cloud follows the Prophet or not. She sees that the cloud is following wherever he goes. It wouldn't leave him. The desire to marry the Prophet in Hazrat Khadija increased, and it intensifies. And then Hazrat Khadija, she freed this Maysara for this good news that he gave, and all the Prophet that he brought with him after this trip. And she has the desire to marry Hazrat Khadija, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. She approaches the Waraq bin Nawfal, and one of the dignitaries of Quraysh, and then she asks and proposes to get married to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, that he accepted. And the aqd, the nikah, was recited by Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam. And the mahr also that was specified for this marriage was 500 dirhams or 20 camels. That was the mahr that was set by Abu Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Now all this beauty and all that she had, Hazrat Khadija, she sacrificed all of that for the Prophet. On an occasion when the Prophet comes to Hazrat Khadija and says that, well, the Prophet, he couldn't say that he was in need of funds, but somehow she understood that he is in need of funds. She instructs the slaves and the maids to bring whatever is in the storage or whatever that place was, the bags of gold and silver to place before the Prophet. And the Prophet also was shy. She just says to those maids and slaves to just keep on piling them. Whatever he wants, he can have. Whatever he wants, he can take. Says so much he brought and so much he placed before the Prophet that they couldn't see one another. There was a big wall of all these bags of gold and silver coins that were placed before the Prophet, that she sacrificed everything for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, regarding the beauty of the sacrifice and giving, and that is Jood and Sakha, we've got these two terms. Jood means giving, sacrifice, Sakhawat, giving out of love. And before someone asks for what he wants, these are two terms, Jood and Sakha, that a person he gives in one case when someone asks. On another occasion, before that person asks, he gives. So these qualities were there in Hazrat Khadija. One of the ayat of Quran that we see, which gives us so much of an insight and teaches us that يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَةً مِمَّا أُوتُوا وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. This is from Surah Al-Hashr, ayah number 9. There says that among the qualities of the mu'mineen is that um, they and among the qualities of the mu'mineen is that, and in the faith before them, they love those who have fled to them, and they do not find in their hearts a need of what they are given, and prefer them before themselves, though poverty may afflict them. So they may be in need, but then before the person says something, they give away. Now, these talks about the generosity can be seen in Medina quite a lot when they supported the Muslims when they moved from Mecca. So, when they came from Mecca to Medina, Muslims were very poor. They didn't have anything. So, it was the people of Medina who supported the Muslims who have come to Mecca. So, the Ansar, they shared their belongings with the Muhajirin. They gave superiority to them, even the war booty, the ghanaim that they got, they never took it for themselves. They gave it to the muhajirin, the immigrants who have come. So they preferred the immigrants or the outsiders. They preferred the guests more than over themselves. So this beauty was never seen in history before, nor after that. That Allah, He reveals an ayah that these people, they are um, such selfless and such giving and generous that they don't even look into their own self, although they need it. Now, the renowned Mufassirin such say that this beauty was never seen in history of mankind, that although they were in need, they gave away out of love all that they had. Some riwayat say that the number of Muhajirin serving were less than the Ansar. As a result, there was a dispute among the Ansar as well. They wanted to compete in helping the Muhajirin. The Ansar, there was a dispute among them. So it was the beauty in the Ansar that the Almighty liked it, He praised it, and this ayah was revealed. So giving, it's one of those beautiful actions and traits. In Islam, it is by giving a person grows. Even the wealth, it grows by giving. In the capitalistic or the materialistic system of faith and belief, they think that by giving, wealth decreases. Here it's the other way around. If someone wants an increase in his wealth, in his income, barakah, khums has to be given, zakat has to be given, sadaqat have to be given. So all these charities and alms and dues and funds and all that we have, that is in a way protection of the wealth and also protection of health and also increase in that wealth. Because for Homs Ma'asum, he says that when you pay that 20% of your saving, we guarantee that 17 folds of whatever you have paid will return to you. Not only the 20%, 20 multiplied by 17, that much is going to come back to you. The same thing is with zakat. Otherwise, when khums and zakat are not given, that wealth, it just goes away. Somehow it is lost. First, and a wealth in which khums and zakat haven't been paid, it is haram to use it because it's contaminated with haram, because that khums hasn't been paid. It is unlawful even for the person who says it's mine. He cannot even use it. So khums is paid, zakat is paid to purify that wealth for you to be able to use it lawfully, and also it returns in many folds when a person pays those khums and zakat. The other ayah that we have in Quran that talks about this generosity and giving is that وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. And they give food out of love for him to the poor and the orphans and the captive. So reported from both the schools of thought, that is both the Shias and the Sunnis, that Allama Amini in Al-Ghadir, he says 34 from the most famous Sunni ulama have reported this incident, that this surah was revealed in the honor of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. The Almighty, He such liked this benevolent giving trait of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that He has an address special as He addresses them, the Ahlul Bayt, as the special servants, as the Abrar, as the noble, the righteous, the good. So, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, out of love, they give away to those, the orphan who is in need, the beggar who is in need, and the captive who was in need. Now here the captive also, it isn't, and the captives there, it was from the, not even a Muslim. So they give away selflessly, generously for them, and Allah also liked that trait. And for that also He revealed a complete surah in honor of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So this giving is important, and in giving also we have to see that if it is given for the sake of God, and that is with ikhlas, there a lot will return. In the dua that we had for this day, we said, Allahumma habbib ilayya fihi al-ihsan, that Allah in this month make me love goodness and ihsan. وَكَرِّهْ إِلَيَّ فِيهِ الْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ, and make me dislike corruption and disobedience. وَحَرِّمْ عَلَيَّ فِيهِ السَّخَطَ وَالنِّيرَانَ, bar me from anger and from the fire, by your help, O helper of those who seek help. So in this dua also, we see that we ask Allah that this giving trait, it's one of those beautiful traits that every one of us has to have. And infaq is وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. In the way of Allah, you have to give. You have to give. And that giving also, if it is for God, ابتغاء مرضات الله, there it carries weight. Allah accepts, and He also will give a lot of barakah to you here and in the hereafter. So giving is important. Now that we all have to give, if it is giving for Allah, it has that positive effect. If God forbid it is to show and it is for riyah purposes that others they see, here the Almighty also will not accept. He says, you did it for someone else, go ask that someone else to give you the reward. You did not do it for me. If it was for me, I will reward. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ, the example of those, the parable of those who give away and who spend in the way of Allah for the sake of Allah to seek His pleasure and contentment, they have a high and a lofty position. Bala man aslama wajhahu lillahi wa huwa muhsin falahu ajruhu, says that someone who was faithful and who gave away qurbatan ilallah for the sake of Allah, and he was good, falahu ajruhu inda rabbih, the reward he would get is with God, with Allah the Almighty. What is it? The reward is with him. At the same time, he says, وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. No fear they have to have. And لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And they will not be in grief also in the akhirah. So if you want that grief to be put away in the akhirah, we have to give. With this generosity, with this giving, it is a protection for you, your wealth, your descendants, your family, your loved ones. All of this a lesson to myself. So in Islam, we have to give. Places of worship are the only points of contact that we have here from this part of the world to the shrines of the Ahlul Bayt. If I intend to be in Karbala, I have no other choice. I go to the center that is near my place. That will take me to Karbala. That will take me to Mashhad. That will take me to Mecca. That will take me to Medina. So that is one representation that we have, these places of worship wherever we are, especially far away from the Muslim lands. That place of worship has that beautiful impact, and successful and prosperous. And lucky are those people, those families who have a center near them. Whatever they want, religiously, spiritually, they can get connected to their center, and they can get connected to the shrines and to the Ma'asumin alayhim salam. And those people who don't have these centers, when you look at them and how the outcome of their actions and amal, how they have distance from deen also, it's a result for not having that center. So centers are mubarak, centers are important, and we have to support them. And a center that supports religion and teaches and preaches the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that definitely is what Allah Jalla wa ala, He also has a special eye on them. And in Allah yuhibbul muhsinin. In Allah, He definitely loves those who are good and muhsin. May Allah Jalla wa ala help us understand these beautiful sayings of Ma'asumin alayhim salam, and by Hazrat Khatija Salamullahi alayha, this great lady who sacrificed everything for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in the last years of her life in the Shi'b Abi Talib. She was there for, Muslims were there for 3 years, and it was the wealth of Hazrat Khatija that was helping them to suffice, to survive therein. Now, in the last days of her life, it was the month of Ramadan, her health deteriorated, and this rich and that wealthy Khadija, she doesn't have anything left. Now she calls Hazrat Fatima on the last day of her life, says, I'm shy to say this to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wasallam. I have a little wish, and that is, I'm afraid of the grave and the questioning in the grave. Now, someone who has sacrificed everything in her existence for Rasulullah, she says that I'm afraid of the grave and the questioning in the grave. My request is that to comfort me, ask your father to give her, to place that, to wrap me in that abba in which he got his first wahi from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Hazrat Zahra, she's 5 years of age here. She comes and delivers the message to the father. And when Hazrat Khadija passes away, there wasn't a shroud also to shroud her. So say that abba and the cloak of Rasulullah was to be wrapped around her. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala from the heavens, when He sends a kafan for Hazrat Khadija, says, someone who sacrificed everything for me, it is upon me that I provide all the shroud and everything for her. That was provided by Allah. And according to her request also, that abba was placed on, she was wrapped in the abba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in which he got his first wahi. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Ya Allah, by Hazrat Khadija Salamullahi alayha, this trait of generosity and giving, bless every one of us with that. Ya Allah, between us, Quran and Ahlul Bayt, never ever come across a moment of separation. All those who are ill and ailing, especially present in this majlis, Allah grant them shifa. All those who have requested for du'as, whatever du'a they may be having, Ilahi, by this Friday, the day of Imam al-Asr, alayhi salatu wassalam, grant whatever they want. Hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, our Hujjah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.